I think maybe one of the most formidable things a student going into college can do is participate in a group project. You walk into a classroom with 100 to 200 anonymous strangers, and you wait for your teacher to mate you with 2 or 3 other anonymous strangers to work on a project on a topic you have no idea what you're talking about yet, with people who you've never met, and who may have different ideas and different opinions from you, and it can be scary and tricky to navigate. Some people might not do their work. Some people might try to take over control of the group. There's all these different factors. I think we all have our horror stories about certain group projects we did either in high school or in college. I bring this up because it reminds me of a story my friend was telling me last week about a group she's in for her capstone class. For background, we're both the sustainability majors, which basically means we know a whole lot about the world, but not a whole lot about how to fix it yet. So we add an interesting mindset to a group project. So she is partnered with a business major and 2 engineering majors for this project. And so she has to, they had to come up with a prototype for a product that would solve a social issue while also creating a profit. So finding the line between sustainability and profit. And they met last week. She was telling me about it to talk about a marketing strategy for this product. And the business major, having taken classes in a lot of marketing areas, kind of took control and was talking about what she thought a good marketing strategy would be. And she kept using the word consumer to talk about the people they were trying to reach. She said, this would be a good strategy to reach more consumers. This would be a good way to get out to the consumers. She was just using the word a lot. And so my friend thought that was weird. And she, at one point, interrupted and said, asked her, why are you using the word consumer? And the business major just looked taken aback and just looked at my friend like she was dumb and said, because that's what they are. What would you call them? And my friend goes, I call them people. So this story kind of stuck with me because I think it highlights one of the major tensions in the sustainability world. It is between sustainability and business. You have this kind of tug of war between wanting to do something socially responsible and wanting to see people as people and wanting to make a difference through an organization versus having an obligation to maximize profit. So it's kind of a constant battle between the two, at least in the sustainability world, if a company is starting to consider sustainability. So it can be tricky. It can be a tricky line to walk. And it boils down to this underlying question of, should businesses even be doing sustainability? Should businesses even be worrying about whether they call people people? Should they be using the word consumer because that's what they're supposed to be doing? There's this big debate out there about whether businesses should be solving the world's sustainability problems, or if which that should be left to government institutions or individual people or communities, or who should be solving these problems. So before we go too deep into that, a little bit of background on the sustainability world if you don't already have a background in it. The best definition I can think of for sustainability comes out of probably one of the most known definitions. It comes out of the United Nations World Commission on the Environment and Development, which met back in 1987 for a meeting called the Brundtland Commission. And this commission led to this big report called Our Common Future. And the definition of sustainable development that came out of that report is largely lauded as one of the most comprehensive definitions of sustainability that's pretty easy to understand. And it goes a little something like this. Sustainable development is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So basically, sustainability is trying to live life as productively and efficiently and vibrantly as we can today, while still allowing future generations to be able to do the same thing. So it's tricky. It's hard to define. Everyone has different definitions for sustainability, but and a lot of the definitions do focus on environmental and social aspects of sustainability because it's easier to get our head around things like climate change, environmental degradation, pollution, poverty, illness, and overpopulation. Things like that are major themes of sustainability thought. But recently, or actually not so recently, it's been about 40 years now, there's been a movement to get sustainability integrated into the business sector as well as into environmental and social sectors, which sustainability looks at those as three pillars. They see social, environmental, and economic sustainability as the three pillars to achieve full sustainability. And integrating into the business sector is a way to achieve economic sustainability. And so back in the environmental movement of the 1970s that came around as a backlash to the Industrial Revolution, people were saying corporations should act more responsibly because we see them as big evil corporations that just act in the benefit of money making, and we saw that as a problem. And so we said, okay, we want corporate social responsibility so that companies can start being accountable for their actions and acting more sustainably so they don't completely destroy our planet, which was, of course, very passionate and one-sided, but that was kind of the birth of corporate social responsibility back then. So it's been around for about 40 years. And even though it's been around for that long, there's still this ongoing debate about whether business should be that involved in sustainability. I know whenever I try to talk about the economic pillar of sustainability, and I say, oh, sustainability in business, it is very limited, the definition of what businesses can do for sustainability, and that makes it kind of hard to fully integrate it into the vision of sustainability. And should businesses even be doing sustainability? Is that even their job? Their job is to create money, is it not? So if you were to ask this guy, probably one of the largest looming figures in the history of American economics, Milton Friedman, he would say it is an overextension of what the business should be doing. Businesses exist to maximize profit for their shareholders, according to Milton Friedman. One of his most famous quotes, "The business of business is business," pretty much underscores his entire thinking on the subject. And as a consequence, he influenced a lot of people coming out of business schools in the 70s and 80s, and those people who graduated back then, coming out of business schools with new MBAs and Milton Friedman as basically their god, went on to where they are now, which is at the heads of large corporations at the CEO level, board level, chair level. They have extreme influence over what businesses do. And so the idea is put forward by Milton Friedman saying that corporation, the sole purpose of a corporation is to maximize profit for their shareholders. And any action beyond that, trying to do corporate social responsibility for anyone beyond the shareholders, would be highly subversive to the capitalist system. Yes, so he said that in a 1970 article about corporate social responsibility published in the New York Times, and that's a very incendiary comment considering that the United States prides itself on upholding the capitalist system. So it was a thinking that permeated a lot of business world thought for a very long time. And it's only just now starting to shift because those people who are leading those businesses, who were very heavily influenced by Milton Friedman, are now either moving out of the business world or are passing on, or any number of things. Younger generations are coming up that have not been quite as influenced by Milton Friedman. And so that's one thought about what business should be. Businesses should only exist to maximize profit for their shareholders. There's many other opinions to oppose that. One of the biggest ones is that while maybe it would have been true that their only purpose was to maximize shareholders' value 40 years ago, now corporations have their hands in so many different societal issues, and they affect so many people who don't even know they're affecting. And so there's a lot more stakeholders here than just the shareholders of the company. And so the counter argument to Friedman's saying that only the shareholders matter is you can't really have that one-sided look at one group when the business is also affecting all of these other people. But just because they don't have a financial stake in the business means that they don't have a say over the actions of the company. And so that is an argument for corporate social responsibility because it allows the business to consider society as stakeholders and allows them to act accordingly. And another counter argument is that a lot of investors are already having this on their minds anyway. if you have read any business news at all, you would have seen back at the beginning of 2018, this guy, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, issued this letter. He issues an annual letter to all CEOs of the companies that he invests in. BlackRock is a large investment and money management firm. So if you have given money to BlackRock, they have the right to invest that in companies or projects or things that they think are going to maximize the return to you. So bring you back more money. And so that's what he does, basically. And so what he says carries a lot of weight with businesses because he manages a lot of money and has a lot of sway in a lot of businesses because he owns a lot of stock in a lot of businesses. That's kind of how it works. When you own a lot of stock in a business, you get a little bit more say in what the company does, if it's a public company. So he issued this letter that basically said that he wants to see companies saying that they serve a social purpose, that they are doing corporate social responsibility, they're taking into climate change, poverty, community issues, other environmental issues into effect. He wants to see companies doing this so that he will invest in them. And if they are not doing this, if they're not publicly disclosing that they're doing this, then he's going to either withdraw investment or he's going to have a serious talk with them. And so that reflects a big push in the investor world, and that forces businesses' hands to say, okay, we need to get this program going. And so that is also another big argument in favor of corporate social responsibility because investors are already interested in it. And so how do you balance between the Milton Friedmans of the world who say that a corporate business should only be maximizing shareholder value, and everybody else, so who says that corporate social responsibility is something that businesses need to be doing? How do you balance that? Introducing the business case for sustainability. The business case is kind of the happy medium. It's the win-win of the business world and sustainability world. Basically, it's saying that a lot of things that businesses are already doing for sustainability are actually good for business already as well. So things like increasing efficiency, installing efficient lighting, getting green certifications, doing things that businesses can tangibly do to achieve sustainability is already in their best interest because they have they can reduce costs, it can advance brand, it can drive their revenue, it can make their processes more efficient. It is a way of doing business almost. And so looking at sustainability as a way of doing business versus this big flowery word that says, oh, sustainability, we need to make our world better, more sustainable, which could be the driving force of a lot of the people who work for that company. That this allows for getting rid of that kind of flowery language and saying, okay, this makes sense for business. Not only does it make sense for business, it makes sense for the world as well, but primarily it makes sense for business. And that is the underlying takeaway that I want you to take home with you today, is that the way to get sustainability integrated into business is to make the business case, because you're probably never going to get rid of the Milton Friedmans in the world, and they should have their say. They make great points. Businesses do have a very specific function in our society to drive profit and make money and maximize value for shareholders. And a lot of people out there are shareholders that want that from businesses. And so that probably is not going to change. But as investors like Larry Fink and BlackRock and other investment firms get on board with the idea of you need to be disclosing information about being socially involved and environmentally conscious, that's going to force the hands of business to move in a minimally sustainable direction. Is the best way to put it. So that is the way to get it integrated, is to talk about how sustainability is going to either increase profit, reduce costs, or reduce risk for a company or advance a company's brand. Putting it in business terms is the best way to get sustainability integrated. Thank you.